Hello everyone, can you hear me? The usual awkwardness as we begin our third live stream.
How would it be a live chat without awkwardness, really?
Can you hear me? Are we live? Says we're live. I'm going to assume that we're live. So welcome everybody. We're here again, our third live stream to discuss our documentary In Search of the Dead, joined as usual by my husband, Erik.
Hello, everyone.
So, first of all, I just want to say a big thank you to our patrons, as you can see hopefully on screen now. And also thank you to everyone in general for such wonderful comments. For our last live stream, everybody was so supportive. Our announcement about our latest filming adventure, people sent so many wonderful comments, well-wishing and wishing us a safe and prosperous journey.
It really helped us keep going through, what was it, like 5,000 miles we drove in total throughout the whole trip?
It was crazy, to say the least. So, let's start talking about, well, before we get into the details, just a few minor announcements. We're almost at 80,000 subscribers. We're less than 100 of you away from that. How amazing is that?
80,000 subscribers. That's like a football stadium full of people, really.
Just can't imagine it at all. So there's that. And also, of course, when we were away, we had our 2-year YouTube anniversary on the 8th of August. We've been doing this for over 2 years now. That is...
Yeah, we're doing really good, I would say, after 2 years.
Yeah. Some of you have been there right from the start. Some of you have come later on. I just can't even imagine almost 80,000 people listening to our research, my voice.
I can't believe we kept on going for 2 years now. It's almost surreal to think about it.
Yeah. And now here we are, our biggest project yet.
I never thought I'd be doing this.
So, In Search of the Dead. For those of you who have been keeping up with our blog on etherealproductions.com, or indeed our recent videos, you should know something about what we've been doing, what we've been intending to do anyway, because this trip didn't go 100% as planned.
Yes, to say the least, really.
To say the least. So thank you, congratulations on the 2 years, thank you Valentine, and just so many wonderful Anthony, woo, so many good comments. It's always so weird to have this live interaction. But we're going to do our best, as always, to keep an eye on the live chat.
It's already quite a bit of you. I think it's better now we gave so much warning beforehand for this.
Yeah. Mortis Media, hello, and thank you. So, the intentions of our trip then. Well, we live in France, and we were intending to drive through Germany, Austria, Hungary, to reach Romania, where the bulk of our filming was going to be done. So it started off well.
Oh yes, everything went according to plan, except for like thunderstorms throughout the whole way just to Germany from the very beginning. A bit of an omen, I suppose. But we met with Kai over there.
A physical medium, the premier physical medium of Germany, of the Felix Circle, a seance group dedicated to not only producing physical mediumistic phenomena, but actually working with academics in order to try and objectively prove the existence, the scientific existence of this phenomenon. And we were fortunate and very lucky to be welcomed into his home and to sit with him and learn some very interesting and very bizarre things.
Physical mediumship is a completely bizarre phenomenon, to say the least. We've only run across this as we started doing this documentary. But, Kai, it was a very enlightening experience being with him. He was really nice, really forthcoming with everything. He felt, I would say he felt genuine as a witness what he believed in.
I think the problem with mediums, well, not the problem with mediums, but the problem with people wanting to speak to mediums is there is such a reputation for people to come in with cameras and asking questions with the intention of trying to debunk or expose people as being fraudulent. And we know that some of the mediums we've contacted to ask to meet with them were very wary of communicating with us for this reason. So to be able to speak to somebody like Kai so openly and generously as he did is so refreshing, and really it humbles us to be relatively unknown random people coming into your home and asking you, well, what do you do? What is this all about? And for him to answer.
Well, Kai is very open. That's what makes him almost unique. He's been stripped naked before one of his media seances before, just to examine that he had no trickery going on.
Mm-hmm.
And those that have examined them say that there is something to it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Ryan. £5. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ryan.
Thank you for showing up again. So we didn't get to see anything because, of course, you can't just go in there expecting to be shown everything. You have to build a relationship, a rapport, which is what we hope our first meeting with Kai and others like him will be. It will be a step in building a relationship so that one day we can go into a seance and say, well, we saw this or we didn't see that and these are our opinions. This was just an interview, an in-depth interview, and as I said, he was very open to talking about it. For those of you who perhaps do not know what physical mediumship is, we have a video on Franek Kluski, a mini documentary. If you're interested, you can go watch that. Physical mediumship is the rare form of mediumistic ability in which communication with spirits, the dead, whatever you think they are, manifests into a physical form so that everybody in the room, in the seance or at the table, can witness the communication themselves, not just the medium. So this can be the production of ectoplasm, photographs being taken of these beings, these heads, hands, disembodied body parts, voices, knockings, all these
table levitation,
all these physical effects.
It's a lot like conjuring up a poltergeist in a crowded room, really.
Yeah, definitely.
At least on the reports that we've come across. So when we saw Kai, what did you think of him?
As you said before, he was very, very genuine, and I was impressed with his openness. But it left me in two minds because I'm sitting there with this clearly grounded, rational, intelligent individual, and on the face of it, I'm like, well, he may not make sense, but he sounds like he makes sense. But then you listen to the things that he's telling you and you're like, this just can't be. It's bizarre. How is this real? And I even get the sense that he himself is like, yeah, it's bizarre. Because for Kai, he goes into a trance-like state during seances. He's not conscious of the manifestations which he produces, the apports, the objects which come, the photographs which are taken. He's told this information afterwards and he looks back at the footage and things that was taken.
Well, from the reports I've read about how his seances work, he has to be like half an hour in almost like a trance-like state, and then he drinks like gallons of green tea. It doesn't have to be green tea from what I know of physical mediums, some just water, any number of things. And then he like sweats, and it's just such a colossal effort for him. Mm-hmm. Whatever you may think of it, there does seem to be a colossal physical effort that goes into the seances.
Mm-hmm. And even he himself doesn't explicitly say that they're spirits of deceased people. He says something is going on, but whether he himself as a medium can even say that it's communication with the dead, even he is not willing to commit to that.
No, he seems very much in doubt. He knows that there's a phenomena going on, but he doesn't know what exactly it is. He doesn't ever say like, oh, it's physical mediumship, it's the dead, He's open to other kind of ideas, the idea of like a collective ESP, that sort of those more strange, almost pseudoscience explanations that we're kind of coming across with quantum theory and things like that. I would say he was quite open-minded. He wasn't dogmatic.
Which is refreshing because you expect I certainly did coming into this, that when you meet with people who believe in something which mainstream society classifies as bizarre, you expect them to be dogmatic. You expect them to be saying, this is how it is, this is true, and for them to try and convert you in a way. But he's not like that. And so many people that we've met who are on the believer side, and indeed the skeptical side as well, they are not like that. Everybody is so much more open-minded than you would think they would be.
That's been the most surprising thing. I was thinking that it would be difficult to find people that are flexible in this way. But no, that has actually been the most common thing. Everybody who's interested in this, they all seem to have a genuine passion to want to find out about the truth. You know, especially people who have done it for a long time, whether it be a professor or a medium like Kai, they all seem very flexible in the pursuit of the truth.
Mm-hmm. So what do you all think of physical mediumship? For those of you who perhaps know more than we do, or you've watched Franek Kluski video, or indeed you've just heard what we've just said, what do you think of it? Because it really is almost like the fringe of the paranormal. The paranormal itself is bizarre. And then you have the edge of bizarre where it gets even crazier.
Please say your comments as we go along and discuss amongst ourselves. We will try to get back to you as soon as we can.
Mm-hmm.
So even if we've moved on, you can ask a question or say any sort of comment that you would like. So how do you think we're going to be able to fit physical mediumship in this documentary, seeing as it's such a huge topic?
It seems to be something which keeps coming back and back and back. And to fit it, obviously, in such that it's not just about physical mediumship. It's not just about mediumship. It's about so much more than that. But physical mediumship is such a complex and interesting topic that it deserves so much more than we could perhaps give it the time that we could devote to it within this documentary. So we've been discussing how we can deal with this, and one of the suggestions that we thought of was to do like a mini documentary afterwards, which specifically focuses on physical mediumship.
That's very true.
So we're wondering, how interested are people in physical mediumship?
Yeah, because like I said, it is a new area.
So Charisse Walker, what is happening physically to him? I would be interested in keeping his stats and monitoring his body as well to find the answers to see if the gift is real. Well, as Erik said, he sweats a ton, and they welcome professors in. One academic, was he from the US?
Yes.
He has written a huge report about what he witnessed. You know more about this than I do.
Well, from what I gathered from the professor, he was very much at the end of it in two minds about things. He felt like maybe some of it wasn't real, but then there was some things that he was just like, I don't know how to explain this. And, a lot of footage was captured in red light. Seems to be one of the favorite methods of catching photos of him, like oozing out ectoplasm from him. I mean, that's, you see these pictures, they're quite bizarre, to say the least, really.
Well, the idea is that ectoplasm, for whatever reason, can't stand white light. And that it has to be captured in the red light in order to be photographed.
Yes. This does seem to be a common trend with the phenomena of like ectoplasm. It makes it almost seem like almost laughable sometimes, but there does seem to be something there, this sort of spirit energy or whatever
I would say it seems to be quite common in the paranormal in general. The paranormal does not seem to like cameras and being captured on camera.
Yeah, someone mentioned, is it not cheesecloth? There was one instance where
there's been a few, yeah.
Yeah.
Physical mediumship has a very tarnished reputation. There was a lot of fraudulent mediums, but even then, even for people who claim this was fraudulent, they did this fraudulent, they will still say, well, at moments, they were not fraudulent. It's almost like physical mediumship requires such a great effort on the part of the medium that it is so exhausting for them that under pressure to perform for scientists or observers, that they would act fraudulently for certain parts, that they would fake certain
there's
seances.
A famous case, Eusebia Palladino. She openly liked to have fun with like people and liked to do tricks on people, and people would think, oh, she's not, but she just when she thought she could get away with it, she would cheat, she would lie, she would trick people. But then when she was under study, when she was under scrutiny, she would do levitations and incredible things that people to this day cannot explain.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, in her you can sort of see the mixed reputation of physical mediumship perfectly.
I feel like I have to address this comment. Funny if it's turned out to be a documentary which was a secret fan-funded holiday. I wish it was a holiday, and I wish it was fan-funded.
Yeah.
Someone asked us if if we were being sponsored by anybody for this documentary. And indeed we have our patrons, who we love very much for their support. But we are paying for this out of our savings. And it's not sponsored by anyone. It's just Erik and I, and the generosity of everybody that we're meeting with, interviewed with.
We have worked with one of our subscribers as well.
Yes, indeed.
And in fact, he might even have a little part in the documentary.
Yeah. And it is by no means a holiday. We are exhausted the amount of miles that we've travelled. But it's certainly an interesting experience. Are you at all concerned that since physical mediumship has a tarnished reputation, that it could lower your credibility to research it? I think that's a good question, but I don't know, it's almost like two answers.
Yeah.
In part, you could say yes, because I don't think some academics, even the most open-minded, would want to touch physical mediumship.
Mm-hmm. Because it does have that tarnished reputation, but at the same time, I think I've said this before, we had the privileged position of, we belong to no university, we don't belong to anything.
Mm-hmm.
We can go into these sort of things and just actually research it without any sort of worrying about, well, my credentials, my degree says I can't be this or I can't do that. We can do it with an open mind and say, like, are these incredible, fantastic things real?
I think this documentary is an expansion of the kind of attitude that we have towards the paranormal scholar in general, which is we want to provide you with what we believe is the information that is available. In this case, we're going to find it firsthand for you, and we're going to present it. We're going to present the physical mediums, the scientists, and at the end of the day, it's up to you to take from it what you want. It's almost like we're giving it, you can decide whether you think it's real or not. Even if we may have our own opinions by the end of it, it's a collective thing. I don't think anybody can be so dogmatic to say this is correct or this is not. And for people to then think that you could be discredited.
I don't think, like, for example, I don't think either of us are believers. I say we've done a lot of research on this, and I think one of the top comments that people sometimes say is like, that we have proofs that ghosts are real. Sometimes I don't really feel like we've done that really. Mm-hmm. I think we just try to bring something into information into an objective light, really. Mm-hmm. I think that's mostly what we do. We just say, look, we have no judgment on this, good or bad, here it is. Yeah. And we try to present the information in the best possible way. We don't really try to cast any sort of judgment.
And we really enjoy hearing what you say as well, because nobody has all the answers and all the perspectives to anything. It is interesting to see how someone from a different background, a different culture, a different belief system could interpret the same thing. And there's also the issue of distance as well. I certainly, having gone into this from being almost like an armchair researcher to being in the field, so to speak, it is such a different experience to speak to these people that you would just read a book about or research on the internet. It is completely different.
The paranormal seems to have such a mixed reputation, and it is incredible to see that once you go into the field and research these things, there is so much more beyond the theatrics, beyond the hoaxes, beyond this, that whether you believe in ghosts, spirits or not, there does seem to be something going on. Perhaps sometimes we come to crazy conclusions thinking of things, like when somebody reads your mind,
telepathy instead of mediumship. And there have certainly been things on our last trip and this trip as well, indeed, which has made me question my kind of basis of skepticism. Scary things, almost like I don't want to believe in this, because it is terrifying to be challenged like this. From Charisse, how are you finding the people that you are interviewing? I cannot stress how generous people have welcomed us into their homes. They did not know us. They just had email conversations or Skype phone calls, and they welcomed us into their homes. They gave us a drink, something to eat. They laid their research and their opinions bare and said, ask me whatever you want. How generous is that?
Yeah, it's true. Well, they've contacted us. We've contacted them. Sometimes we've contacted someone that knew someone. I mean, that's how most of we've found people.
Yeah, somebody asked the question, how do you find people? Well, I suppose when we research the videos that we make, we look around for things that we're interested in, we follow, we chase the trail of information, we find names, and then we're like, oh, where are they? Oh, they're in the UK. Let's find their email address. Let's send them an email, and we just introduce ourselves and that project. And some people don't answer, some people don't want to do it, and some people obviously do.
Yeah.
And as Erik mentioned before, some of you have reached out to us. It's not just been us finding people. We've been very fortunate to have people approach us as well.
That is very true. Let's move on a little bit the trip, because we've been stuck a little bit in Germany, and we were really stuck in Germany many times.
So the next thing that we had intended to do was to stop in Budapest and meet with a lady who runs a ghost tour, and to get her opinion on public relationship with the paranormal. And we actually met with someone in the UK who did a ghost tour, but we wanted a different, perhaps cultural opinion. But unfortunately, due to family circumstances, a family member was ill, she couldn't make it, so that didn't happen. Which was unfortunate, but of course it couldn't be helped.
It happens,
It completely happens. So we took like a day break, and then we were off again to Romania to meet with wonderful contact, someone who reached out to us and held out a hand of friendship to two strangers and said, come to Romania, come interview me, and I'll be your point of contact. So that was Radiana.
Yeah.
And
she introduced us to the Hoia Baciu forest.
but before we get to that, a bit more about her herself. Radiana is a witch of sorts. Not your typical definition, but someone very in tune with her environment and her sense of self. And I really enjoyed that interview. For those of you who have gone onto our blog and read that article, hopefully you can get a sense of the content of that interview. It was such inspiring to hear from somebody who had such a different perspective of death than most people. She described it as being death positive and not fearing death, not even thinking all that much of it, because it's just a natural part of life. And to have that perspective, not only her perspective as a witch and someone who sees the world differently from most people anyway, but also to be informed about perhaps how the Romanian perspective is different in regards to ghosts, and how religion and faith informs people's opinions.
It was a very interesting interview. We spent the whole afternoon just talking to her, getting her perspective on things, and it was incredible, to say the least. It really opened your mind up to certain things.
Once again, such generosity to be with someone and to ask personal questions about belief.
Yeah.
Some people do not want to talk about death. Some people do not want to talk about what they believe happens after death, or indeed what they believe happens in life. But to be able to sit with someone and ask these intimate questions is such a humbling and rewarding experience. It really is. And
also to have her sort of introduce us to the Romanian culture when it comes, and Romanian approach to the paranormal. It was fascinating, to say the least, because everybody there seems to be really in tune with the paranormal. Everybody just seems to be really into it, and every single degree.
But almost like secretly, because it's this war between religion, traditional religion, and belief in the paranormal, which in a sense is almost like a religion in itself, how some people approach it, this dedication and faith to it. So we met with Radiana, but as Erik mentioned, the Hoia Baciu forest, known as the world's most haunted forest. That is why we were there in large part. we wanted to find out what it was all about. And we were lucky to meet with the president of the Hoia project, who is responsible for raising awareness of the forest, protecting it, preserving it, trying to get the local community more interested in it, and also tourism in general, global tourism.
I would say that before we did that, though, we thought we'd check it out ourselves without anything. So we kind of just found the entrance, went up there at night, and had a little...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I can't say too much there, but...
Even though we are both skeptical people, open-minded skeptics, I think it is so hard to leave imagination behind. When you're told you're in the world's most haunted forest, I don't know, in hindsight, things always seem very different from what you felt at the time.
Well, it was an incredibly dark forest with a blood moon hanging over it that night, so it had everything you could think of for creepiness, and it was even the crooked trees and everything else. It's really good to do a film there, like a horror film, I think.
Yeah.
It's the perfect setting, really.
So people report seeing all kinds of things in the forest, and on our website, paranormalscholar.com, we have an article on there which briefly goes into this and includes some interview snippets with the president of the Hoia project. But some of the things that people talk about is UFOs. That was like the big thing that started the forest's infamy. Disembodied voices and the feeling of being watched, electronic interference, GPS not working, everything that you could imagine happens in that forest.
Well, I know that in that forest by the end of it, I was hearing everything. I was just like every single thing that was reported. I could say it was nerves at that point, but it does seem like it just starts coming to you after a bit in there.
From Daniel, what was your experience like in the forest? Well, as Erik said, it was just so dark, and it's almost like that primal fear that humans have of the dark and of forests for whatever reason. You could feel it there, like in your chest, but you could recognize that it was a primal fear and that there was no basis to it. But
there was wild boars, really.
yeah, there was supposed to be wild boars in the forest, though we never saw them. But it was like ticking in the back of our mind that we were going to get attacked by a wild animal in the dark. But anyway, as we got into the round clearing, it's called, which is supposed to be the epicenter of the paranormal activity in the forest, it felt, for me at least, it felt like that feeling intensified. And it was a gut feeling, which, told me,
get out of here.
To get out of there.
I would say, though, it's very strange, like, the forest in the daytime. Because we went the next day, and after that we talked
to the same place.
Same place. We talked to the Marius, and we interviewed them there in the round clearing. Hopefully I'm not saying too much there. Anyways, and... it felt completely different. I can't even say it was just peaceful in some way. It was just serene.
It was very still. Yeah. The air was still. There was no noise. It was almost too still. But yeah, it did have a peaceful edge. And we were really fortunate to actually be able to interview 3 American visitors to the forest. They were there with... president of the Hoia project on a tour, and we were able to interview them and just get their initial kind of response. What did they think of the forest? Why were they there? Because it's really interesting that people, it's almost like a pilgrimage site for some people who are really interested in the paranormal. They'll go to these locations like Hoia, as we did in a sense, out of some kind of uncontrollable curiosity. It's really interesting, this cultural relationship.
Well, Charisse just asked a question, and I think it's quite pertinent right now. How much should our emotions and feelings be used as evidence?
This is a really good question, because scientists, of course, don't take any of this into account, because you can't qualify or quantify someone's emotions. But in the paranormal, it feels like you have to.
Well, I wouldn't say scientists in general. I mean, one scientist we met wrote a paper called the personal experience is the new objective. And this has been taken up by anthropologists in the modern day as well, where they will go native, as to, so to speak, and they will live with the tribe to better understand them. They will go through the initiation ceremonies. Many of these anthropologists, and many years of university, will then come out of this experience believing in the paranormal because they lived there.
But they can't, in a scientific, objective way, record that the paranormal is real, because other people, other scientists would just not buy it. And I really think it is something that you have to go and experience for yourself. I've had moments, Eric's had moments, we both had moments where we're like, this is too weird. I can't objectively and scientifically tell you what's going on, but I feel very strange about this. And something which always gets to me, it's the idea, and we've been told this repeatedly, that the more you expose yourself to the paranormal, the more you research it, the more sensitive to things that you will become. And for me in that forest, that feeling I had, it felt like it was because I was becoming more open to this after what happened in the UK on our last trip. And it scares me because, in a sense, I don't want that. I don't want to be like that. It challenges what I thought was real. As open-minded as I am, it challenges it too much.
What I have found is that, you know, we're both people. We're avid readers. We are avid people looking to evidence. We are what we see, what we hear, what we can touch is always what we are seen as real and what we've examined. But with this, there seems, once you get into the field of the paranormal, there's another sense that you get into it, and it's a very strange sense to explain. I would say it's like your gut feeling. You start to examine things with your gut, if I can say that. Your gut starts to react, and you don't know how to react to that. How do you react to something that's instinctual, that has no, it can't be articulated, it can't be put into shape, it's just there in your gut.
I would say that normally I'm a very kind of cool, calm kind of person. I don't get carried away by things, I don't get scared very easily. The dark, for example, doesn't bother me and things like that. But in that moment in the forest, it was something, like you said, a gut feeling that said something is not right, you need to leave. And it was this one particular area within the clearing. Yeah. And you can, there'll be more in the documentary, you can read more on the blog.
We're saying so much already, aren't we? Just tell them everything already.
But it is this dilemma as to how much do you pay attention to your emotions. And I think it is important to. Yeah. So that was Hoia Forest, our experience there. Would you like to go to the forest, any of you? What do you think about the forest?
One of the things that was floated about when we were in Hoia was to have perhaps an opening or perhaps a screening of the documentary when it's finished in the middle of the forest. That was one thing that was
like a projector screen, I imagine, like the opening premiere of In Search of the Dead in the middle of Hoia.
But the electronic disturbance comes to play.
It would probably happen then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly when it would happen. It'll be then.
So let us know what you think of the forest. Now, moving on, what was the next thing that we intended to do on this trip, which didn't go to plan?
Well, afterwards we sort of started heading back to Germany, where we were gonna meet up with some ghost hunters. Now, here's where we ran into some real world problems. People say a lot about Germany and its autobahns and motorways, and we had figured, yes, it's gonna be a fantastic, easy sort of ride through there. Literally, the entirety of Germany is under construction, I think, because it was just non-stop roadworks, and then like 5 minutes of going as fast as you can, so everybody's going like 1,000 miles per hour, then everybody's slamming the brakes to get into the roadworks. And throughout the process of this, our car broke down.
And not only that, on the morning that we were supposed to go and meet the investigators, for some unknown reason our sat-nav just broke, even though mysteriously the very next day it worked again. So we weren't able to make it there, and we had to faff to try and get home with our car and stuff.
Yeah, get the car, looked at in Germany on a weekend, and
so that was a very anticlimactic end to our journey. But these things happen. It was unfortunate that we couldn't make it to the investigation, but as one of our patrons rightly said, it's almost unavoidable that obstacles will emerge when we're doing something of this size.
Someone says sounds like the M6 in the UK.
Yeah.
But I would say it's the UK is fantastic roads, I would say, compared to Germany.
Well, at the moment, yeah. Although we did have a horrible experience on the M6 once. But
oh yeah, that was. Did we break down on that one?
No, it's when the lorry like tapped the back of the car.
Oh yeah, that's when we had that accident. Yeah, yeah. We have lots of good luck on motorways, don't we?
Yeah, well, you do. Anyway, going back to some of people's comments about the forest. People saying, Anna says, yes, I would love to go to the forest. I'm not afraid of death because I've faced death several times. And indeed, I think for people who have these experiences, it really bolsters their approach towards life.
I would say so. I'd say go to the forest, really.
Yeah.
I mean, to everyone.
Feel it for yourself. Thank you, Anna.
It's a whatever your beliefs are. The forest is beautiful. First off, it really is. The trees are very unique, and it's amazing how this little spot exists. And there's quite a busy city next to it, but still, once you get into it, the city is lost. It's like 1,000 miles away, and it's just still. It's just peaceful in there. Sometimes in the daytime. At nighttime, it's a nightmare. But in the daytime, I would say that if you like the nature, go to Hoiabachi. I recommend it greatly. Red
Dwarf says, I would go to the forest, but not alone. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I would not go alone. As skeptical or whatever as you are, when it's dark and you can't see where you're walking, it is not fun to be there.
It's also another thing about the forest that we learned about was that it's a favorite amongst people who like to do black magic and rituals, and there does seem to be evidence of that we've seen looked a little bit around. So one thing that maybe we thought the forest might be haunted, maybe just because of ritual activity or something like that. But yeah, don't let that put you off. Just go to the forest.
Real selling point there. But yeah, forests I think do attract that sort of thing, whether it be black magic, as you say, or just Wicca or paganistic rituals, because there is this, nature is such an important part, and these are places of beauty and solitude. But if somebody does something that's not quite right, if you believe in that, perhaps it could leave a remnant. And maybe the forest per se is not haunted. Maybe it's somebody has done something there that they shouldn't have done, and it's left some kind of negative spiritual energy. That's what I kind of felt from that part in the clearing, that there was something not right about that area. And
well, we'll reveal more in the documentary. A little bit of
spoilers.
We're really spoiling the documentary.
Anthony asked, did you think something was trying to stop you guys? And that was something that came into your mind.
Yes.
But it's almost like, why does this happen to me? It's almost like a very self-centered kind of thought that crosses your mind that something is... I don't know.
I really don't know. Sometimes
it's a scary thought. It's a scary
Sometimes
thought.
I felt like that. Like especially that last day, the sat-nav broke and the car breaking down near Frankfurt. I mean, that was sort of like, what are we going to do, really? And then the sat-nav just comes back up the next day. I mean, we've relied on that sat-nav. I'm saying through many travels, through many places we've been to, and our area of where we live and other places we've been to have been quite rural and desolate. Still, the sat-nav soldiers on. But just what happened that last day?
It worked in the forest. The forest that confuses people's GPS and electronic devices.
We got lost in the forest, but the sat-nav helped us out. So. But apparently the autobahn is just too much for that.
Yeah, I think take what you want from that. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I really don't know. And it is certainly a terrifying thought to think that something didn't want us there, whether it was a malicious, you don't want to be here, or a benevolent, you shouldn't be here for your own protection. But it is a very disturbing thought, I would say. So we eventually made it home anyway, after quite a ludicrous time towards the end.
It was quite insane all along it, really. Like I said, 5,000 miles. I've never done anything like that. And we've never done anything like that, really.
And indeed, we've said this before, that we've never really done anything of this scale before. The scale of this project is immense for us. But I feel like that trip really reinforced the scale because of how far we travelled and some of the things that went wrong. And I mean, the heat as well. Like the temperature was driving us to insanity. You know, it really has pushed us to our limits.
It's going to Romania was going to almost a completely different world, really, going to Romania.
Mm-hmm.
It was fascinating and at the same time incredibly frightening because it's so different to what you know.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you start seeing people on horse and cart on the road and, on a roundabout, you have to be careful with the person on horse and cart there. And busy traffic. This isn't like, oh, there was a horse and cart and everybody else was on horse and carts. No, everybody was going 1,000 miles per hour because there's no speed limits in Romania, actually.
Well, there is, but...
No, there's no real speed limits. So there's barely any roads in parts of it. People still go down as fast as humanly possible. Like getting to the forest, there's an area there and there's a dirt road that goes up to it. And we couldn't make it up the dirt road with our car. Well, at least not safely. We thought we'd damage the car in some way or hurt ourselves, so we parked at the bottom. But no, other people were just like, going up it, throwing like little tiny cars just up the hill. Romanians are very brave people. I gotta give them that.
I would say so. So we walked up that hill twice. Because on the third time we went to the first, we approached from a different side. But we went up that hill twice with our filming equipment. One time in the heat. And it was not nice. So the scale of the project, I mean, the amount of work we've done so far, the organising of getting people together, the travelling, and then inevitably the editing that's going to come out of it. We're hoping to get an original soundtrack composed for the documentary, which I'm very excited about. You're very excited about, to give it, a little extra special.
We're gonna be living in the editing studio for like a while, I think.
Yeah, and a couple of people have asked when is it going to be released, and also an important question is where is it going to be released as well. So when, as soon as possible is the intention, but we are working like 100% on this now.
It's just that it's a journey, and I had a very delusional date in mind when we first started this. I realize that now. But it's a journey. You learn new things and then you got to follow up other things and you got to keep going. Some things don't really turn out the way you expected. We don't have a script for this. We don't have a direction this is supposed to go in. We don't know the ending. We don't know anything about this really. We're just trying to discover it. We
are observers.
We're just try to be observers to most of our ability.
And definitely it is crazy. Ultimately, what we want this to be is to just go out into the field ourselves and to be the start of us doing this. And we are trying to put in as much effort as possible to get this done to the highest standard that we can physically achieve, just the two of us, almost like rubbing two sticks together to try and make fire, and to get it released as soon as possible. Should I say perhaps the preliminary date that we had in mind?
It's a very audacious date. We're not willing to commit to it, so don't hold us to it, but you can say that.
We had hoped to get it released for Halloween because of, what a wonderful time that would be to release In Search of the Dead. But before we finish, we do need to go back to the UK where this journey began because, we have unfinished business, so to speak, there that we need to try and complete that in order to add to what we discovered there last time.
Anthony asked a good question, I think. Will we see other stuff you filmed that did not make it to the documentary? And yes, we are gonna start, around the time of the documentary we'll release things like perhaps full interviews, extra bits we thought were not pertinent to the documentary. A lot of the things, for example, we did that Fanekluski little video. That was sort of, I wouldn't say it was inspired by the work we've done in this documentary, but we will have parts of the documentary that will be released on YouTube.
Definitely. because it's such a shame. We have got so many hours worth of footage, and we are estimating very loosely that it will be about 2 hours-ish long, but we have far in excess of that.
It was
And-
more than 30 hours worth of footage
Yeah.
to come through, something like that.
And it's such a shame to leave it out. You know, we want you to see some of the good stuff that didn't make it in.
Will you include bloopers? There have been bloopers, but
There have been. I don't know.
I don't know. Well, we don't know.
Yeah, and you know,
Maybe we will put it on like a little video. I don't know. Yeah, we have to
I'm still, I don't know what the word quite is, but reluctant at the fact that I haven't been filmed in this, so to then include bloopers as well. Yeah.
Let's get to the where then.
Okay, so where will you be able to get this? Well, distribution is something that we've thought a lot about for this. You know, it's completely different from anything we've done before. And we've been looking into different platforms. And something that we like the sound of is to release it on Vimeo. We haven't used it before, but from what we've looked into it,
What we're doing is we're releasing on Vimeo and YouTube.
and YouTube.
Let's not scare people too much. It will be a pay-per-view thing. And on Vimeo, they're very fair to the creators, and they don't charge a lot of extras on top. YouTube does. So if you get it on YouTube, it's going to be more pricey than on Vimeo. That's not because of us. We're making the same, really, from regards to that. We want to also then, someone mentioned DVDs. We might be looking into that as well. Perhaps in the future after that. But we have nothing definitive that we can commit to right now.
Of course, this is us testing to see if is this something that we can do. You know,
This is new ground for us.
This
really.
is new ground, and we would love to do this full time. We would love to make more of these documentaries.
And for our subscribers and everyone here, we will have many promotional opportunities, giveaways, things like that. When we will give discounts and things like that. So anyways.
Someone says, I'm a composer and would love to contribute a track or two to your documentary. Email us. We would love to hear from you.
Yeah, of course.
If, we love hearing from you and your talents, and part of what has made this so enjoyable is the interaction with our viewers. And equally for our hopefully our final filming trip to the UK, if you are a person of interest, or you know of someone we might be interested in interviewing, so, medium, paranormal investigator, paranormal author, academic, clergy member, anybody like that, email us as well. Get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you, possibly meet with you, interview you. We want you to be a part of this. And the survey that we did, I really love that, the interaction that we've had with as many people as we can.
That survey, maybe we should show some of the results if we can. We've been combing through this. We had over 1,000 results.
It was like 1,300
something like
results, which is amazing. That's an amazing sample size.
That is accurate. That's a professional survey right there. I was like a few hundred. That'd be amazing, but you guys really pulled out for us.
So on screen now we have some little pie charts that we made from our results, and for those of you who filled it in, you'll know that there were several different questions about belief, religious belief, and belief in the paranormal. And we have on screen now, just from one of the questions, do you believe in ghosts and or spirits? A very general question. And you can see the comparison between female responses and male responses. So, of course, we expect these percentages to be quite high because you're all subscribed to the Paranormal Scholar. There's going to be people who are more likely to believe in ghosts. But that's okay, because the information is still useful, even if it is slightly skewed. So, females, as you can see on the top left of the screen, are much more likely to believe in ghosts and spirits than males. 80% of the ladies out there who filled in our survey are believers, compared to 64% of the gentlemen who filled it in. And males are much more likely to be unsure and to admit, I don't quite know yet. A similar comparison was using the question of people saying whether they believe in a god or gods, how that affected their belief in ghosts and spirits. So this is the bottom left and the top right, the two smaller of the pie charts. So for those of you who believe in a god or gods, it's a very high percentage of you believe in ghosts. And then you look at those who do not believe in a god, it's only 41%. With those of you who are unsure, at a third.
Yeah.
So I really think it shows that gender has an influence in belief. Whether you believe in God or not has an influence. It is, these kind of relationships are really interesting. We had such a variety of questions. We can, there's so many graphs and pie charts we can make from the results. They are really useful.
We have dozens of pie charts we've done it. And, I would say that everyone that filled it in, I was expecting it to be much more like, because we are the Paranormal Scholar, we have our Paranormal audience, but it's a lot of you out there, I get the sense, are seeking the truth. They're also like, they're not sure, they want to know more. And some other surveys that have been done in the general public, for example, show belief, for example, in America is roughly like almost in line with our charts, really.
Mm-hmm.
So it is not too different, really, from what you get from official surveys.
No, it's brilliant to have had your response like that. From Kimberly, we both did the survey. You said that's me and my husband, and it really is like a gender split. The ghost tour operator that we spoke to, she said when we asked her, do believers come on your walk, or are they mainly skeptics? Like, who is it that comes on your ghost walk? And she said, yeah, they're skeptics, and often they've been dragged along by a family member who believes in ghosts, who wants to go on the ghost walk. And she said, mainly, girlfriends and wives, they're the ones who drag their unbelieving husbands and boyfriends on the walk to hear about ghosts. So it is a widespread thing that women seem more likely, for whatever reason, to believe in ghosts and spirits, just as those who believe in a god are more likely.
Yeah, well, men are more unsure, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. And of people who responded to the survey and identified themselves as religious, atheist, or agnostic, or not sure, so agnostic, most people were not sure. They were kind of agnostic, kind of searching, questioning.
Most people were agnostic, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the things was we sort of tried to examine with this survey was that some surveys have shown in the UK and Scandinavia that in UK and Scandinavia there has been a drop in religious belief. People attending church, people believing in a god, and all these sorts of things. But there has been an increase in the belief in the paranormal, supernatural. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to see how our audience also saw things in that regard. But I don't think so. I think it's just people more interested in paranormal stuff. Maybe there's no link, really.
Mm-hmm. And we had responses from all over the world from you. It was incredible. We had people, of course, most of you were Americans, as we expected, but we had people from Madagascar filling in the form, who were born in Madagascar and
Myanmar, I think. Or something.
Yeah, I can't even name all the places. It was incredible. We were like, oh, people watch us from everywhere. And they took the time to fill out the survey. It was only a short survey, but thank you for helping us with this. It's really is interesting. And we hope, in whatever way, that we can bring something new to the table by doing this, to reinvigorate intellectual discussion surrounding life after death. Our documentary is not just us going and investigating places. We are not paranormal investigators. We are observers.
Well, you try to be observers. Most of the time, I think we do a good job of it, but sometimes we have been roped in because, like I said before, you're trying to examine something that appeals to your gut feelings. Mm-hmm. You can't help but be roped into it in the moment. Maybe afterwards you're analyzing it and you're like, well, that was not right, really. Your senses, your logical senses, then come in and say, well, that was just mostly emotion. But in the moment, I defy anyone not to get into this and investigate this and not feel like not participate in it. I think it's possible, really, if you actually put yourself into it.
Mm-hmm. I think when you're there interviewing someone, it's important to be objective and to really push to get the answer. Ask the questions that you want so you can get the answers. Not, of course, the answers you're looking for. We have no agenda, but a topic that is being discussed, and that's easier to be objective. But when you go to places like the Hoya Battery Forest or you're with a medium who's telling you things that they shouldn't be telling you, it is very hard to take a step back.
Got a question. Have you noticed more people feel like they have empathic abilities in the past? Well, some people we've talked to on this journey say that there has been a sort of an awakening going on when it comes to regards to the paranormal, that more and more people are believing in it, that more people are, well, not believing is the wrong word, but becoming aware of these supernatural forces. That is something that's symptomatic of our age.
I think a large part of it is that the taboo is being broken. Not just taboo about death, but taboo about the paranormal. There are so many paranormal TV shows, paranormal books. People feel much safer to admit that they believe in ghosts. And because of that, people feel much safer to admit that they feel certain things. Then there's no judgment being cast as there used to be in the past, which is why we can even be having this discussion. This is why the Paranormal Scholar exists, because there are enough people interested in it. You're interested in it, we're interested in it, that we can come together and talk about it in a way, we'd be hung as witches back in the day. But it's...
Well, you definitely would be.
Even academics in, the fringe of academia are discussing it and are doing experiments on it.
Well, I think people nowadays, for example, we sort of can look beyond certain phenomena that's going on with the advent of science and stuff like that. We get able to see things more logically. Before, everything was to do with God, and if you didn't have anything to do with God, not to say that God does not exist, but everything had to do with God. Flies being born had to do with God. A child being born, everything was to do with God. And if you said anything otherwise, people would laugh at you and think you're crazy. But nowadays, it's okay to question. That has become
everything.
It's okay to question everything, and I think that's it's been like that for a while, but it just keeps on expanding, and now we're touching new areas.
Hopefully, we can continue to do so. I don't think we will have any definitive answers by the end of this. But I certainly hope that for those of you who watch the documentary, it will make you think.
Yeah,
and that's ultimately all we could ever hope for.
That's all we set out to. We just want to make you think. That's all, to get those brain going.
Yeah. So please think.
Yeah.
So what next? As I said, we have one final trip back to the UK. So again, to repeat myself, email us if you think you are a person of interest and that we would be interested in interviewing you or whatever you have in mind. Please email us, send us a message on Facebook. There will be links in the description to our email and Facebook or Twitter, wherever. Just get in touch. And we'll be editing in the meantime as fast and furiously as we can. Hoping to have some sort of teaser trailer done over the next few weeks to give you a little taste of what you can expect from the finished product.
And after the UK trip, we will have the official trailer to be released and another live chat for everyone. And
then hopefully it won't be too long until In Search of the Dead is done.
Yes.
And you can all think about whatever we find out in the end.
For those of you that joined us later in the live chat, or do not worry, because the whole thing shall be uploaded to YouTube afterwards.
Same as our previous podcasts. And remember, you can always keep up to date with what we're doing on our Ethereal Productions blog, which is the production company we are launching simultaneous to this documentary, which we hope will be a sign of, our future endeavors. So go on there, go on the blog. You can look at what we've been doing on the past trip. There's some photographs, blog posts. There'll be more to come. That's where you can get the freshest information about our progress. And as Erik said, another live chat when we come back.
Yeah.
And a teaser trailer, hopefully. So I think that's it now, unless anybody has any final questions. If you want to look at some of the chat from Daniel, I can't wait for the documentary. It is such a pleasure to see that you share our enthusiasm for this. It's really, I keep saying it's really humbling for you to get behind our project like that. Thank you.
So it makes it possible, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah. Kimberly, have a nice day. Thank you. You too. All of you have a lovely day. So there we go. Bye bye everyone, and thank you once again for tuning in to this live stream.
See you all next time then.
Yeah. Take care.